Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sara.
And this is Bodice Siblings,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it.
On this episode, we read The Windflower by Laura London. There's a lot of great anti-trigger warnings in this book. There are people who are on the LGBT spectrum who are not evil at all. There is a pig named Dennis who lives through the whole book, but that's kind of counterweighed by the fact that they talk about raping people all the time.
Just casually.
All the time. The main character does not get assaulted. It's kind of like she's got like some non-consensual kissing, that kind of thing. But like every other woman who has ever set foot on this pirate ship, including one of the named characters, they just talk all the time about how they raped her.
Yeah.
All the time.
So
there's that. Otherwise, I will tell you it's a delightful book. But like, just keep that in your mind.
It's kind of like a really... Well, hornier Pirates of Penzance. You know, those pirates were horny.
But not gayer.
No, not gayer.
So, hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
How are you?
Oh, doing well. How are you? Delightfully well.
I'm actually delighted by this book. I'm delightfully well. I was recommended this when we started this podcast by somebody I work with. So, hey, Ellen, it took me this long. What is it?
Thank you, Ellen. We should have listened to you earlier because this book was a delight.
This is like, what, 4 years? How long have we been doing this podcast? But this was like definitely way before the pandemic. So, you know, it's been that long and I just kind of had it in the back of my head. And I was like, let's read that book. And we had read one more book by them. It's actually Laura London is a husband and wife team. That was That Lingers, the book. There was a Loveswept. It was a contemporary and it was about a male stripper. But it's okay. He's just stripping for his wildlife conservancy.
Yes. So, again, Laura London is the name used by the duo Sharon and Tom Curtis. Sharon passed away past October, and they got married in their teens, and, you know, she passed away. They stayed married. They were writing basically from 1977 to 1986, but they didn't stop because of like some kind of like nasty divorce or anything.
Which makes me very happy. I would be so upset.
Yes, like they were very cute, and you know she's quoted from Sweet Savage Flame as saying, "Tom and I married in our teens and began our first novel together in our early 20s. Tom regards the world with a kind of ironic pessimism. I'm optimistic and introspective. We are so impractical ourselves that our children were forced to rebel by developing common sense. Tom thinks the glass is half empty. I think the glass is half full. Our kids think the glass ought to be washed, dried, and put away," which I think is very sweet. So this is kind of a little dedication because they're both books that we have read by them have been absolutely a delight.
I really wish that we had read it when it was originally suggested to me, because then she would have been alive. And maybe she would have heard that we loved her book.
Yes.
But I'm pouring out for the real one. I want to think that Tom is the one responsible for the fact that this is very sharply well written until any sort of like dick or nipple makes an appearance, in which case it is the most purple, ridiculous prose you have ever read in your entire life.
Yeah, it was very like, oh Lord, like
here we go.
20 pages of a sex scene. And I was like, this is, and not 20 good pages, like 20 pages of like her tender embrace and, you know, that kind of thing.
And they'll be describing somebody, they're just like four people perfectly normally, but then the dude walks in and it's all like weirdly kind of Hannibal about how like his muscles are knitted onto his bones. And I'm like, that sounds
uncomfortable.
Yes. Oh my God. So I like to think that that's him and that all like the sharply observed, like, you know, clean prose is her. That just makes me happy to think that. What are we drinking? We have a themed wine.
Yes, we are drinking a nice little bubbly Sauvignon Blanc called Sea Salt. It's very refreshing. Felt like it went with our theme of we spend a good time. Well, this book goes all over the world, essentially. But we spend a good time of it on the actual ocean on a boat. So
yeah.
Sea Salt. And
this is the pirate book that we've been looking for.
Yeah.
Honestly.
This is I think a good summer wine.
Yeah, it is. It's so it's a Sauvignon Blanc, but it's almost a little sweet.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of, it's almost got like a little bit of a baby carbonation to it.
Yeah, it's not like usually what I go for. Like, when I heard Sauvignon Blanc, I did not think that that's what this was, but I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too. And it's mid-price. It's about like $16. So I think if you need a good little summer wine to impress your friends.
Yes, and it's got a cute little label too. The cover for this book, of course, it has one of those terrible modern covers. At least it is not like a palm tree. It is two people in a clinch, but it's just boring. The original OG cover is delightful because it's like them kind of almost like when the boxers face off.
Yeah.
Like before the fight, like a face on a face, like, and it's delightful because that's kind of like what the book is. It's when they're sparring verbally, it's actually funny. Like the banter.
She does end up punching him, so that's a good.
She does end up punching him.
He looks very 1980s on this cover. It's kind of amazing. Mm-hmm. Like he has got that Falcon Crest, nubile young man look to him.
He looks very soap opera. Agreed.
Yes,
extremely.
Yeah. His hair is windswept.
Oh.
For the Windflower.
It should be windswept. They're on this boat all the time.
They're on the boat.
Then there have been covers since then that were very 80s funny. Like there's one where this woman is made up, like they accidentally set that makeup gun on Horrigan. And she's clearly like several sheets to the wind and like trying to get the bartender to agree to give her more booze. Like it's just... It's a clinch cover, but it's not a great clinch cover. So I love the OG cover.
Yeah, the original one is
it's been ill served since. Let's put it that way.
Fantastic.
So let me read you. I actually read this on Libby, but this is evidently what the back cover copy is, according to Amazon. The classic tale of passion on the high seas, available in print for the first time in 20 years. So I guess this new cover is like a reissue. Mary Wilding is a lady of breeding, of innocence, and of breathtaking beauty. With high hopes for a holiday in England, she sets sail from New York, but the tide of her life is destined to turn. Mistakenly swept aboard an infamous pirate ship, Mary finds herself at the mercy of a wicked crew and one sinfully handsome pirate. Actually, there's lots of sinfully handsome pirates on that ship. So
she has a harem, is what she's got.
She does. Soon she's spending her days yearning for escape and her nights learning the pleasures of captivity. Devon Crandall believes Mary is in league with his greatest enemy. He's determined to slowly urge her secrets from her, but along the way, he discovers her beautifully unbreakable spirit and a desire unlike any he's ever known. She is hiding something from him, and yet each day that passes brings her deeper into his heart. When fierce arguments give way to fiercer passion, can a pirate learn to love a woman, or will true love be lost at sea? She doesn't want to go to New York. She does not want to go to New York.
She doesn't want to go anywhere. Well, she wants to just stay in Virginia. Okay. So this book is wildly based on the world of 1812, which is super fun.
And also, it's like well researched.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so like they put the work in, and so it really is based on the world of 1812.
Yeah,
not like I consider this almost like a correction to that that ridiculous like backcountry George Washington comes and saves the day sexily one that we read.
Oh yeah,
Fire Virginia Jewel.
Yeah,
because this one is like put the work in.
Yeah,
and really I loved it for that. So she's stuck at home because she's a woman. She's 18. She is technically an adult.
So we start when she's 17, and she goes off with her brother who does not live with her. She lives with her Aunt April. Her mother has died when she was very young. Her father, we find out later, is a bigwig in the American government. And so he lives separately, and she lives with her Aunt April.
And April is, they're very isolated from the community because April is a big Anglophile still. She's a loyalist, even though it's the War of 1812. So it's been a minute.
Yeah. She was born in England. She loves England. She's mad that she has to be in this dumpy country. And she lets everybody know.
Yeah, so nobody talks to her.
No.
Which, she is kind of unpleasant about it. But, there you go. So, and she has a brother, but the brother lives with her dad. And the dad was, very happy to just foist her off on.
He's like, I don't want to deal with girl problems. Yeah. You take her, April. So I do love that somebody's named April. I always love it when you have these kind of names in these books, where nobody's like Felicity, where it's just April. So we start with her just meandering. She's drawing some rutabagas.
She is a very good artist.
Yeah.
She's very accomplished, and she's an accomplished artist, which is great. I mean, legit.
Her family has this indentured servant named Hank.
I thought it was Tom.
No, it's Hank.
You sure it's Hank?
I think so.
It doesn't matter. He's Hank now.
He's Hank. Because Tom's the cook. There's a lot of people in this book, so just y'all strap in. So he's like a practical joker. He's an indentured servant from, I think, Ireland.
Yeah, Ireland.
And so she's just hanging out one day drawing some rutabagas. That guy's sleeping off somewhere, under the porch or something. And her brother shows up and he's like, hey, You want to have an adventure? She's like, absolutely, I do. So he's like, all right, meet me here tonight at midnight or like 11. I need your help.
But don't tell anybody because we're going somewhere disreputable. And she's like, shit, yes. Yes, we are. I feel like this is not the first time she's done this. So what her brother has been doing is using her extremely awesome drawing skills to spy, essentially. Several times in the past, she has done the same thing with him, that he's taken her to a location where somebody's having a secret meeting, against the interest of the American government. And so she will draw their portrait from memory, and that's what goes up on either the wanted posters or, it goes up command, so that that's how they know who the spy is or who the blockade runner is or whatever. And so he wants her to do that again, but this time it seems like it's more dangerous. It's like at a really disreputable tavern and all.
Yeah, it's like a seaside tavern. And Mary is very like, America, fuck yeah. Like, she is in it. She is Stars and Stripes forever. If this was today, she'd be wearing a USA bikini. Like, she is full on Team USA.
She would have made it herself. She has actual skills. I like that. Like,
yeah, no, she does. She has great skills. Rutabaga drawing notwithstanding. So she goes, they sneak her into this pub.
She's pretending to be pregnant.
Yeah.
It's her and her brother and her cousin and her other cousin. So like two couples, essentially. Yeah. And so she's got pinned under her dress like a straw kind of like fake baby bump because and
you know what? She mistake number one. She just pinned it. Like, you always know you belt that baby bump. Like, soap operas have taught me. You have got to make sure that baby bump is secure at all times.
Because you know what's going to like really not go well for you? Like much worse than just being an unmarried woman at this bar is having your baby bump fall out.
Exactly.
So big surprise.
So she's, they're in the bar. She's like, ooh, look at all these people. Local
She's never
color.
been in a place like this before. She's not supposed to be here now.
And so all of a sudden, the door is open and 3 pirates who are all hot come in.
Yes.
Our first pirate is the leader pirate. This is Rand Morgan. Rand Morgan is the dark, looking pirate.
Broody.
Yes, he's like...
large.
Yeah. Hot pirate number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Big, burly, typical romance novel looking guy. Dark hair, blah, blah. Pirate number 2 is this young, felt like slip of a man with ice blonde hair that's long and a braid and looks like he is a queen bitch from hell.
Welcome to Caddy Disaster Bye.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, Cat is my favorite character.
Yes. And then our third one that comes in is a long, lean blonde.
And this is where the writing changes.
Yes. And his name is Devon. And yes, he is. Our girl Mary is horny for him from the jump.
But there are other pirates also holding the back door and the front door and all. But these are the important pirates.
These are the important pirates to know right now.
And they're threatening to rape and murder literally everybody in this bar because that's what they do. They go around raping and murdering everybody. They're famous for it. It's Rand Morgan and the crew of the Black Joke.
Yes, and he's got beef with some guy, and so. Carl, that's Mary's brother, Carl. Again, I love these names, Carl and April. It just sounds like something out of a Texas redneck movie. So Carl's like, shit, we got to get you out of here. This was a bad idea. He's like, let's try to sneak out the back door. And so they do that comical slow walk and then bloop. Her stupid baby bump just
well, no, they have the excuse, they tell the pirate at the door, my sister has to pee real bad. She's pregnant, look at her. And the guy's like, oh my God. And she's like, don't you have a mother? And he says, fine, but you better be back in a minute,
And he's like, fuck no, I don't have a mother. She's talking to Kat. And so he's like, but you're getting your ass back in here. So she comes out. And the other two manage to kind of squirrel away.
They're just they're just going unseen. They're still there. Yeah. They're stuck there. But so she steps on, she gets her feet tangled up in her gown or whatever. And the baby bump, just unpinned and oh shit. She's stuffing straw back in. And her cousin's like, shit, I'll go back to the wagon and get some pins. Okay. Because this is not going to work. And if you are seen to be not pregnant, then they will absolutely rape you to death.
Yeah.
Instead of just raping you the normal way. They will rape you
Yeah.
And so she's hiding behind the stairs and here comes Devon.
Yeah.
And Devon's like, well, this is interesting.
He's like, oh, so you gave birth to some straw.
Yeah.
The writing in this is very clever. They're very quippy with each other. And they have they have a little interlude, while she's she's begging him to let her go, blah, 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 blah.
And she is legit scared of him.
Yeah.
But then the other pirates come up from the shore, like, as backup. And he's like, you better not get away, because like what I can do to you one time, they can do it 7 times.
Yeah, it's very like intense.
Yeah.
And we hear screaming in the bar, and he's like, oh, don't worry, nobody's murdered. Rand just cut somebody's finger off. And she's like, what?
And it was the guy that she had come to draw. So it was actually a traitor's finger. To be fair.
To be fair, traitor's finger, but still, finger cutting. She's 17. She's freaked out.
And she's, of course, worried to death about her brother and her cousin.
And so she tells the guy that she's married. He doesn't believe it. She says that Carl is her husband. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, they make out in a cart, and it's very hot.
It is very hot.
It's very hot. Like, that part was good. That part was written well. Like, they're making out. And he lets her go with the cousins, and she doesn't think about him or whatever. I mean, she thinks about him, but like a full year, she just draws pictures of all of them because it was such a notable thing. She wasn't drawing pictures intentionally, like, to be like, here's some pirates. It was just for her own personal thing. She drew the picture of the traitor that she was supposed to, and then was like, here's some pirates that are all really fucking hot.
Yeah. I would have drawn them too.
Yeah. And so a full year goes by, and her Aunt April all of a sudden is like, surprise, bitch, we're going to New York City. She's like, New York City? Hank, or whatever his name is like, oh, bye. So, he comes with him, I think.
No, he does, because, like, they leave from there. And so, like, evidently she's been corresponding for years with, like, people that she knew back in England who have mostly fallen off that correspondence train.
Yeah.
And it's, like, really sad and upsetting for Mary to see that. But one person has continued to call and, like, probably said something meaning to be nice. Like, oh, yeah, you should go and see. Well, she jumped on that shit and said, we're going to go.
Yeah,
and so
April was ready to get out of bumfuck Virginia.
Yeah.
Like,
was it Virginia? I kept trying to, like, look back and find.
I felt like it was Virginia.
I don't think it could have been Virginia, though, because the reason I say that is because, like, there's a little bit where Mary is mindful, like, to sweeten things with maple syrup instead of sugar, because she's been reading stuff about how bad the sugar plantations in the Caribbean are.
That's true. Could be.
So she's thinking
maybe they're in
People.
Maryland.
Yeah, they could have been, like, anywhere, like Massachusetts even. I don't know. I don't think it was super clear, honestly. If it was, again, I was reading it on the Kindle, and it's a little harder to flip back and forth.
You can't flip it back and forth.
But it doesn't matter now, because, like, they're not going back. They're going, and they meet this dude, and we think his name is Granville, but we're going to say Granville now.
Lord Granville. He's, a posh little British dude.
Yeah, he's
older though.
He's older, and he's also he's in the British Navy, I believe. And so he, like, unbeknownst to poor Mary, has made a deal with April that he's going to take both of them with him through the blockade because he's got diplomatic immunity. Back to England.
Diplomatic immunity. So, is that in Lethal Weapon 1 or 2?
I don't remember, but I
want to feel like it's 2. I think it's 2 where he's like diplomatic immunity. So whenever we say that from now on, that's how I say it. Diplomatic immunity.
And Mary doesn't want to go. Mary's like, I'm an American. Also, like, why? I mean,
yeah, she is the Tom Petty American girl. Yeah. Like, she
has her hairs and ribbons and bows.
Yeah. Exactly. So she, like, runs off and is, upset. But then her and April talk about it. And April's basically like, I'm really homesick. I'm sad. And she's like, well, I'll go for a little bit, but I'm not going to stay forever.
So they like loaded the wagon to go to the ship, and Hank is all like, they swap trunks for some reason, and Hank is like horrified. Well, it turns out when they get out of the ship that Hank is filled like what he thinks is April, but it is in fact Mary's trunk full of ants.
April and Hank have like this really weird adversarial like relationship. And again, when it's first, like, what's hilarious about this book is when all these people are first described, you think they're older than hell. And then it's like later in the book, it's like Aunt April at the age of 41. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just fall dead. I'm like, oh, it hit me in the heart. Oh God. When you're now older than the old people in these books, like,
yeah, it's hard.
Oh.
Well, just like remember that she looked like shit because it's 1814.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But we look better than April, I promise you.
That's true.
Yeah. I guarantee.
So he had filled April's luggage with or what he thought was April's luggage with sugar and ants. So when Mary gets in the room, which is Granville's room, but he's letting her have it.
No, not at that time. As she goes in her regular room, she opens the trunk.
That's right.
It's full of ants. All the ants come out, and all of her clothes are ruined, and the stateroom is just, it has to be like fumigated.
Yeah.
It's that many ants. So Granville says, "Fine, you have my stateroom, and I will go sleep on. Like I'll shove somebody else out of their room, and then so on and so on and so on, and somebody would be sleeping in the bathroom, right?"
Exactly.
So what happens immediately that first night is that these pirates come on board.
These are like two thugs that get hired.
They're not our pirates. They're other pirates.
They're like low rent pirates.
Yeah.
And so they essentially just grab Mary, drug her, and like put her in a box, and she's in this box for days.
And she because they're looking for documents, which they get the documents, but she's there,
like,
and
this is
extra. And she saw their faces.
Yeah.
So like they found it's a barrel actually. They like undo her from the barrel, and she comes out like,
it's awful. This part was very harrowing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you felt her like this one. Like a lot of times when we have this, it's like the person's like tough and scrappy and wanting to fight. Like she's in agony from being in a fucking barrel for 5 days or whatever it is.
She is often very realistic.
Yeah.
She's great. She's fantastic. But so like they dump her out of the barrel, and she's like, and they're like, wow, we don't have time to rape her.
Yeah,
So
they're very upset. They don't have time for the
they're
raping.
dragging her along the beach. Like, this is awful. And finally they run into Kat, who like, and he's like, what? You were not told to bring a girl. You were told to bring these documents. And they're like, well, we got the girl, so can we rape her? And he's like, no, you should have done that before you got here. I'm on a fucking schedule.
He's like, bad on you that you guys couldn't, adhere to a good schedule. He's like, well, I'm going to take this, I guess. And so he ends up.
And then they're like, oh, well, she saw our faces. And he's like, well, I'll have to gotta drop her off.
Well, he's like,
over the side.
He was like, why didn't you murder her? And they're like, well, you can do it. He's like, but Kat, you find out, like, is a soft shell. Like, he's like, I don't want to murder anybody. So he's like, fine, I'll take her.
He's a bastard-coated bastard, but he's got a little nougat center all the way.
Oh my God, I love him so much. So he puts her in a boat, takes her onto the ship, and gives her to Rand Morgan. And Rand's like,
what is this?
And he's like, I don't know, these guys. And Rand's like, this is what happens when you cheap out on the help. Like, so like he's, they're very flirty.
But
banter.
she was in Granville's room.
Yeah.
So Devon comes all in, and he's like, well, he's obviously that's Devon, Granville's whore, clearly. Yeah. And like so Devon's like, just
well, what happens at first, and this I guess could be mini trigger warning. Is that Rand decides to give her, like, they recognize her from earlier that they're like, oh, that's the girl that Devon kissed a year ago.
No, they don't recognize her at that time.
Well,
yeah.
Rand kind of does. You find out.
Rand actually did. Well,
and so
turns out Rand knew who she was from the jump 18 years ago.
Well, so he's like, well, we'll give her to Devon. And he's like, well, what we're going to do first is, like, her arms were all raw and stuff from rope. He's like, well, we're not going to tie her up. He's like, we're going to make her do opium.
Yeah.
And so, like, there is non-consensual drug use in this.
Yeah, and then plenty of consensual drug use, too, because Rand enjoys his opium.
I know. Yeah, so he gets her high as fuck on opium and it just throws her in this room, and she's like, woo!
It's Devon's room. And Devon comes in, and Devon's like, all right, so you're going to fucking talk. And she's like, woo.
Yes, and then he tries to assault her, and then she throws up on his shoes. I loved that. I loved that.
He is, at the time, like at the beginning, he thinks that he can use sexual assault as a threat to her.
Yes.
But I mean, she, I guess, like, she at that point thinks that he's going to do it, but at the same time, she's still kind of hot for her. So it's like a mild ravishing until she throws up on him.
Yeah, she is stoned out of her mind, and she just throws up all over him. And that's when Kat comes in and starts, like, taking care of her.
Kat gets stuck with, like, okay, so I guess somebody has to clean you up and find you something to wear.
Rand was basically like, well, you brought her on here, she's your pet now. He's like, this is your new pony.
And
You've
he
gotta
still
take
starts
care of
off
it.
super bitchy because the Kat is like, I love a white, blonde, evil anime guy.
Yes,
like,
that's what he feels like. And he's so great. You find out that he had been
a little Sephiroth
bought by Rand. And they dance around it. He had been bought by Rand from a brothel and had been ill-used as a very young child to man. I think he was like 13, 14 when he gets bought by Rand.
And okay, so let me just kind of spoil it a little bit because I want to tell you how mad I am about this. So yeah, you're given to think that like Rand and Kat are an item consensually now at this point.
Because they have a lot of flirty banter. Like they're very like the heat between those two is way hotter than our two mains. Like I was like, yes, let's do this.
Everybody knows they're fucking. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out at the end of the book that was all kind of like a ruse or like whatever. Like they haven't been fucking. Like no. That's the book. Like being a fucking coward. I won't have it. My headcanon is that they are a like. Not even necessarily just disaster bi, but like a disaster polycule. They are a chaos element that brings in other people sometimes and kicks them out.
Yes, because like they always talk about going to shore and like doing their own thing, but they're always together. Mm-hmm. They share a cabin, you know, and it's very...
I will not believe it is platonic. That can just go fuck itself. Absolutely not. So,
no, that does not exist because they are super hot together and like so flirty. And so it's like, and it's that weird in any other context, gross age gap thing where you're like, but in this one, it definitely works because like Rand is a daddy. You know, you're like, I am here for this daddy twink situation.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah. But
so I just wanted to make sure that you understood that what is supposed to be happening in the book is a lie, and we refuse to admit it. Okay, so we're moving forward under our headcanon for Kat.
Yes, yeah, you will not hear what, like, I know.
No, fuck that. Okay. So, but Kat is, like, he does not crumble immediately, all right? Kat is the cruel, you know, like...
He has been so ill-used by everyone. I mean, his mom basically threw him into this, like, brothel situation. He does not like women at all, like, cannot stand a woman. And is very, very, like, he takes care of Mary and, like, he's not cruel to her, but he's very forthright and, like, very standoffish at first.
Yeah.
But then they eventually become BFFs forever.
And, I mean, she is one of those people who we often see in this kind of book, and I didn't mind it in this case, because, like, everybody falls in love with her. And what often happens is they fall in love with her just because she's the main character. Not this time. Like, I get it. She is funny, and she's smart, and she's, like, genuinely
Yeah,
sweet.
she's not really a Mary Sue.
No.
At all. And so, yeah, Kat's the first to crumble. He's taking care of her. They're kind of, like, bantering back and forth with each other, and they've kind of become... Like, again, it's cute. They like have like almost like she has a brother, but she's not really close with her brother. This is probably the closest she has to like a sibling.
And he's very forthright about, like, you gotta tell it. Either you start talking or it's gonna go real bad for you.
Yeah, he's like, you're either gonna have to talk and tell him the truth. And she's like, but I can't do that. He's like, well, you're gonna have to seduce him then. Yeah. She's like, but I can't do that either. And he's like, I don't know what to do for you.
Like, eventually, like, either somebody's gonna cut your fingers off or they're just gonna throw you to the rape pit or, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's trying to help her because she won't be helped.
And he's got real world, like, hard life experience. And he's like, just... trying his best, and she won't have it.
And so for a while, Devon, like, he will come and, like, interrogate her, and she won't budge, and he'll kiss on her and all. He does not actually have sex with her, but there's a lot of above the waist kind of business.
Yeah, it's very, like, that part was like, it was like, well, I'm gonna come in and rape you, and she's like, well, okay.
Okay, like, don't you think you would have done it before now? I mean, you're just gonna bite my nipples again because I could be down for that.
Yeah, so it was, that part was like a little bit like, all right,
kind of repetitive because, like, he obviously had not dealt with the fact that, like, he's not going to rape her, and he's also not going to cut her fingers off.
Yeah, you find out too that Granville is like his sworn enemy, and later on we find out that why is that Granville has had killed his sister or something. Yeah, so when the book gets like really fun is Devon is like, well, I have to go do
pirate shit somewhere else.
Yeah. He's like, goes on like the pirate foreign exchange program for like 3 weeks. And they finally let her out of the damn.
Like, you are just going to die in here. Look at you. Like, we have to give you something to do with your time. You are literally going to die.
Yeah. So like Kat brings her above deck, and you like Kat again is now like her keeper. He loves her. This is again, he has never liked a woman. Like, he'll have sex with women, but he does not like it. He does not enjoy women, but this is the first woman. And so like he would basically, because he's essentially the third command on the ship, nobody's gonna fuck with her. No.
And he puts her with like some pirates to befriend, but he's okay. You get the impression by the end of it that nobody on this ship would harm a hair on her like little red head. But it is clear in the beginning, like, okay, so she's put with Sails, who's the sailmender guy, with Raven, who's the ship's boy, and all. But there are only some people that it is safe for her to be with. There are other people who would actually rape her.
Kat is always watching, and Rand is like making like gently like teasing Kat about it, like, oh, your little pet, you know. And it's very cute. She meets Sails, who is super fun and funny, and then she meets Raven, who I
think he's biracial, but the clues are hard to suss out.
Yeah, he says Mon a lot, and I think he's like from one of the West, like what they, because they says he's from the West Indies, and he is immediately ensorcelled with her. So is Sails, and then you meet. Kat has a pig named Dennis that he won't let anything happen to. It's the ship
and the pig is okay. Nothing happens to the pig, Dennis.
It's because, again, Kat would burn the world down for Dennis and for Mary. And so it's, you know, she's just rollicking, having a good time on the ship. She eventually like starts wearing men's clothes because it's easier.
Well, because all the women's clothes that he has are the kind of clothes,
clothes.
Yeah, these hoe clothes that Rand has that he's captured.
Out. Yeah,
it's like tits out all the time. Also, she has a lot more tits than most girls. So
we do find out. Yeah, of course, she's got that skinny body but big old titties.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, Kat.
There's actually a really cute scene where like she has to like she doesn't even know how to ask Kat, so she like it gives him a note that she got her period.
Yeah.
Women don't get their periods in these books.
No.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know what to do.
And Kat's so good with her.
Like, I'll handle it. I'll get you some rags. This is how we deal with it.
And like he said, like he's always braiding her hair, and like they legit braid each other's hair.
It is very sleepover.
It is amazing. So when Devon comes back, he's like, "What the shit is this?"
Well, actually, he comes back and like she's learned to like climb the rigging and how to like pick oakum. He comes back when she's being taught how to fire the cannon. It's like she's supposed to be a captive.
He's like, God damn, leave you guys. And he's like mad at Kat, but yeah, he can't do anything because Kat is Rand's boy. So.
He almost gets his feet smashed by the cannonball she drops in her surprise.
Yes.
And everybody's drunk, including her, and they're all like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, it's very, very cute. So, you know, but he comes back and he's like, well, I'm going to rape you now. And she's like, do it. You know, like she really kind of comes into her own.
But I mean, what I think I liked a lot about this is that, like, you know, often these women are very innocent, and she is extremely innocent, but she's innocent in a way that is believable.
Yes.
Like, you know, there's a point eventually when she asks Kat, or like, you know, he says, I'm surprised that, like, you didn't lose your maidenhead this time. And she says, I might have. Nobody will tell me anything.
She's like, what is this? And he's like, what? Well, we'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. But so, like, she's legitimately innocent. Like, so that she knows that when he says, I'm going to rape you, this is going to be bad. But she doesn't exactly know, like, okay, obviously it's not this tits up stuff because we've been doing that a lot.
Yeah. So she tries to, like, escape once and it doesn't go well. But then what happens is the boat gets into a boat fight with another boat. And she's like, this is my time. And, like, she has made friends with the cook, Tom. Mm-hmm. And then his assistant, whose name we don't remember, and it doesn't matter.
And he's, like, way more sinister than Tom, but don't worry, she wins him over by the end.
Yeah, so in the midst of all this fighting, she's like, well, how can I get out of here? Because, again, she keeps trying to think, I need to get out of here. I need to get away. I need to get away. And so she sees that the cook's assistant is like, he's like, I'm piecing out of this shit. She's like, well, I'm coming with you. And he's like, no, you're not. She manages to get a gun because she's been locked in the room again because Devon is a dick. But she's, you know, I think Kat gives her the key because Kat is soft on her. And she has a gun and she's like, no, you're taking you're taking me with you. And he's like, fine. So they get in a boat and they're just like,
he's got a map, but he doesn't know how to read a fucking map.
But it's not even like it's like some drunk guy gave him a piece of paper with some shit drawn on it. And he's like, well, this is this island.
This is a disaster.
This
is what this is.
And so they're on the boat. He takes care of her a little bit by, like, covering her with a shirt so she doesn't get sunburned.
But this is not a safe guy. This is not one of her friends.
No, really. he's creep. So they end up getting to land, and literally within a day, this man has just died.
Well, they have this weird evening where they, like, play fight with, like, palm fronds.
Well, and they're eating turtle. And this is, you can tell this is written back in the 80s because there was this time when people thought, like, turtles were... There was a whole period where people thought turtle meat was like,
I don't buy that.
Poison?
Because, like, when my dad was a kid, that's what they ate.
But I'm saying, like, there was this, like, resurgence, because I looked it up, because I was like, was he supposed to die from the turtle meat? Because she was so grossed out by turtle. Like, and I was like, well, you can tell she hasn't lived in England, because those fuckers eat turtle all the time. Well, yeah,
but she hasn't lived in America either, because at the time, they were eating turtle left and right here.
So he eats some turtle, and she's like, ew, gross. But then he's dead. The next day, he's literally dead.
And I think it was just his time.
See, I thought it was supposed to be that the turtle meat killed him. But anyway, so she tries to bury him, and then he gets got by an alligator. And she's like,
she finds the head. It is actually...
She's like, this is terrible. So she's just, like, on this island for, I think, 3 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like, she is... dying.
Yeah, like, and so all of a sudden she's just like naked behind a like palm frond.
And here comes fucking Devon. Like, there you are. My God, I have been looking for you
and
everywhere.
She just like basically kisses his feet because she's so excited to see another person.
And then he, of course, like just gallops. He puts his tongue in that 3-week shipwreck mouth.
God, it's so that gross. I was like, mouth. She has probably just been eating like ass, like just. I don't know what the hell she's been doing, but I was like that gross, dry ass mouth, because the first thing that she's going to want is a tongue in her mouth, not water, not anything else, but this man's tongue.
Maybe it's revenge.
I get squeaked out by people kissing in the morning without brushing their teeth. I cannot imagine.
You only do that when you're just now dating somebody and you're still obsessed with them.
No,
and then
never for me. But
6 months later.
How gross you gotta be to be like...
Well, you are not thinking... You cannot read historical romance and be thinking about any of that.
Okay. But still, 3 weeks out of her just eating probably like... clams and again, I would have thrown up. I'd be like, give me some water, not your mouth in my face.
Pirate spit.
So she gets back to the boat. Everybody is, of course, over the moon to see her. Raven is there. Oh, there was a part where Raven, in her first attempt, see, y'all, this book is wild. This is a 500-page.
A lot happens in this book.
Raven, like...
He keeps getting into trouble for trying to help her.
Yeah, like Raven gets whipped, and she feels beside herself. So again, she has all of these dudes ready to like shed blood for her. And so she gets back to the ship, and at first she's like, it's good to see everybody, and then she falls ill.
And it's very realistic. Unlike, the only other time we've seen malaria in a book was that stupid Jane Ann Krentz book, the Filaria.
The Filaria.
This is like encephalitic malaria. Yeah, like, this is somebody who seemed okay, but she goes through these cycles of fever. She's getting worse all the time, and it's bad. I mean, like, so meanwhile, of course, I know that when I see somebody who's deathly ill with a fever, what I want to do is like grab their boobs.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. So he's always like holding her in her hands and just grabbing them boobs. I guess it's like his like stress balls, I guess
so.
Because he's very stressed.
But again, what happens is the only man on this boat besides Rand who is competent, Kat is like, well, she's got fucking malaria. And so we have to take her somewhere. So they end up at Rand's plantation.
Okay. And this is we'll talk about the plantation later, but this is the part where I was like, look, you were doing, except for the rape thing, so well. It's lovely though. It's a lovely place. But like nobody, like they don't want to admit that they brought her there to die. And she is dying.
Yeah.
But quite, I think, realistic to the disease and everything, and the people are dealing with it in a way that seems realistic to the time period even. So it's this lovely place, but like they're all just kind of moping around, and eventually she slips into a coma.
And so essentially, so we find out that Tom has a wife because she's the one who tells him what to do. It's a native cure. Because what they've been doing is that they've had to like poison her. Essentially, it's like
arsenic.
They've been giving her arsenic to try to kill off the virus without killing her. And so...
there are some dead dogs in this. I forgot to mention that because we don't see the dogs, but they've been testing like other remedies. Like, because Kat's the one who's like got the medical knowledge or whatever.
Kat's the most, again.
Kat's the most.
So...
but the dogs have all died. Like, they can't give her any more. So, yeah, like, Kat's like, we can't give her this cure. Like a fucking Rand comes in and says, Kat, she's gonna die because of you. And Kat's like, what? You could go motherfuck yourself.
Yeah, Rand's got like they have this like really fucked up relationship where like
love it.
Rand says some shit that like cuts deep to Kat, and I'm like, oh my god.
Kat's like, okay, so I have a cure and I got it from The cook's wife.
Yeah, the cook's wife is
Annie? Is it Annie?
I think we'll call her Annie.
Yeah, let's go with Annie.
So she is a native woman. I don't know where she is native to, but she is a person of color. And she is also mute. I think she can hear.
Yeah, she's she's
mute.
Okay, I thought she was deaf mute. I don't actually remember, but she has a disability that involves communication.
Yeah, but it's great because she's a person of color and she has a disability. So
yeah. And she's taught enough people her own sign language that she makes them have to learn.
But she's got this cure, but again, it's very dangerous. And they've tried it on a couple of dogs and it didn't work. And so it killed the dogs off screen. We don't know these dogs. Dennis is still fine.
Yeah.
Dennis is okay. And then Devon is like, well, try it on me. And Kat's like,
that's not even useful because, quite frankly, my dude, you weigh 4 times what she weighs.
Yes, but they do it and they end up using it and it ends up working. I don't know what the miracle cure was.
And she doesn't even know. Like, she wakes up and doesn't see Devon for a while and nobody ever tells her.
Yeah, Devon is like sick from it, I think. And is like
very sick. Yeah, he's out for a while.
But she and this Annie woman make friends and she's like just gallivanting around. Like, I mean, not gallivanting because she's still very ill, but you know, she's recuperating on this lovely island. And
so eventually when he's been avoiding her and she's all like, why? And obviously it's because he realizes he's got feelings for her and all. So eventually he takes her on a cute little boat trip. And what you should imagine.
It's very precious. It's like the Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Like the whole kiss the girl, like sequence of the Little Mermaid, except that there's the sexiest island in the world. The Purple Prose comes back. And so like there's a conch shell. There's all the folds are very pink.
I was like, this is the horniest conch shell.
It is the horniest beach. Like every bit of flora, fauna, or landscape is a dick or an ass or some titties. I mean, it's
very sultry. Like it feels very, like
la 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 la. Don't be shy. Yeah.
It was a very sultry island.
I thought they were gonna have canoe sex. They did not. Yeah, but they came pretty close to having. They
were in a world. They were in like a lagoon. There's a lagoon, and he puts her on a rock. Like they have some make out on the rock. You know. Some grinding, some fingering.
It is probably, if you were going to be real specific, that was sex.
Yeah. It was very good. Very well done.
But it wasn't PIV.
No. So they come back and then he goes, like, reverts back to being an asshole.
And that's when she actually asked Kat, she's like, okay, what the fuck is sex?
So, yeah. So one night she's just laying in bed and there's a party, but they tell her she can't come to the party. It's a beach party.
Because it's full of rapist pirates.
Yeah. And so Rand just shows up and he's like, you're coming with me. And she's like, well, what if I don't want to? I got told I couldn't come to this party. And he's like, well, if you don't come, you're going to have to deal with me and you're not going to like that. So he's very threatening. And so she goes because he's basically throwing drunk Devon at drunk Devon. Mm-hmm. And so she gets there.
Well, he wants to bring all this to a head because he's tired of this shit too. Yeah.
So she gets there and Devon reacts poorly to her being there, kind of eschews her. But then what happens is she's very upset. Her and Raven dance and have fun though. He makes her feel better. She sees Kat. Kat's got some lady Kat is just lounging on a tree and some lady is just grinding on his thigh because he's Kat.
Oh, I thought he was actually fucking her.
There was a grind because I went back. No, it was thigh grinding.
Okay.
And she's talking to him and he's like, well, let me walk you back. And he is drunk and Kat never gets drunk. And so he kind of tells her his backstory, you know, about how he was used, abused, blah, 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 blah.
Nobody will say that cat is for catamite. Like, nobody will say in this book the word catamite, which I think is funny. They won't say it.
Like, what would cat even be short for a man? Like,
Katharina?
No, would it be Christopher?
No, yeah. It means catamite, but they won't say it. And I guess you're supposed to know that.
And
right?
so they end up going back to the house, just the two of them, and she's like talking about how Devon kisses her, and she just doesn't understand it. And she's like, is this the way it is for everybody? And he's like, well, I don't know. And she's like, well, will you kiss me? And he's like, fine. And she's like, shit, this is really good, but it's very clinical, like, but she's like, you keep talking about my feminine wiles, you keep telling me to do this. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I really think that y'all think that I'm like lying or whatever or playing innocent, but I really do not know.
And Kat is like, all right, so we're gonna have the birds and bees conversation essentially. So they're sitting on the porch, like both a little bit drunk, and he's telling her about sex, and it's very, very wholesome and wonderful. And you
don't get most of it in the book, but you can tell that it's like like,
And it really kind of solidifies their bond.
Because, like, oh my God, like, nobody will tell her.
And, like, yeah, and we even get that, like, because there are parts, like, where you're like, is this, like, a weird love triangle? But, like, when they kiss, it's like, she's like, God, like...
Yeah, this is not the same.
She's like, technically, it's a great kiss, but, like...
Yeah, I want Devon. I want him real bad.
And, like, And so, and obviously, Kat wants Rand.
Obviously. Yes. Thank you. And a random assortment of other thirds.
Yeah, so... Again, these British soldiers are at this beach party, and they have talked about the drawings, and they show the drawings.
And Rand drags her into this. Like, Rand makes her be here for this. So, obviously, Rand's got, like, bigger plans or whatever. Because they're like, we have... like, Devon sees them, and he realizes immediately... Because, like, he's seen her art.
Yeah. He knows it's her, and he's like...
I will deal with this.
You bitch kind of thing. And so, they...
Yeah, like, he realized, like, in other words, she does not get a chance to tell... anything, because now he believes that not only is she Granville's whore, but that she's Granville's whore who has been after them, feeding information to Granville, like, oh
my God.
Which, I mean, like, okay, if that were true, that would be terrible.
Yeah, but then he's like, well, surprise, bitch, I work for the, like, English government, and I'm taking you to become a prisoner of England. And he's like, let's go. And like, so we flash forward where she's just been stuck in a boat in a room for like 6 weeks.
It's serious now. Like, all of a sudden it is serious.
Like, even Kat can't get to her. And
there's even a joke about, like, something about, like, we could throw her to the crew and have them rape her. And, like, I think Rand is like, I could not get these people to rape her. She has got them all. Every single one of them. Kat brought this thing on the ship. And
I know, he's very, So they end up, like, flash forward 6 weeks later, and he's like, let's go. And he's taking her to, like, keeps telling her he's taking her to some...
Because they land in Cornwall and they go to London.
Yeah, and
it's miserable. She's exhausted. Like, he's got her hands tied. She tries to escape, like, at an inn. She's always trying.
But she always, like, then she falls through the chicken house.
Yeah, it never works out for her.
So they end up going to this other guy's. I can't even remember because
London Mansion,
and the guy, he's like, it's like this guy that essentially helped raise Devon. By the fucking way, Rand and Devon are half brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but so, like, Devon walks in and this guy's like, "Your Grace," and then she's like, "You're fucking what?"
And he's like, "Who's this?" And he's like, this is this, like, traitor. I'm going to have her killed. Like, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, well, let me tell you this crazy story. He's like, this lady, April, comes in here. She's good friends with your mom, by the way.
Yeah, great aunt has been trying to get this woman over here to make you marry her. It's a crazy fucking story, my guy.
He's like, and he's like, but here. So he's going to bring this girl. But the girl... her room got filled with ants, and then all of a sudden she got kidnapped because she was in Lord Granville's room. You remember Lord Granville? You hate Lord Granville. She doesn't really know him, but, he's part of it anyway.
Anyway, she's probably dead.
And Devon's face is getting wider and wider.
Meanwhile, poor Mary is asleep.
She has not been allowed to sleep for like 5 days. And she's like hearing this story. And she realizes that April's here. And then all the Devon's like shaking her. Has the audacity to be like, why didn't you tell me? And she finally does what every woman should do when a man pushes you to the point.
She just punches him in the face.
She punches him in the goddamn face.
It's amazing.
And he's like, well, you know what? I'm in love with you. We're going to get married. I've ruined you. Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, what? And he's like, I can't let you go to sleep until we get married. She's like, she's been up for like 72 hours. She's like, fine. Well,
and this other dude is like, can we untie her?
He's like, why are you being such a dick to this girl? And he's like, well, I thought she was a whore. And he's like,
and by the way, he's also, and he word to my son. And Devon's like, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put a pin in that shit.
And so this motherfucker who has been a shithead this entire like 350, 400 pages of this book is all of a sudden like, Mary, I love you. I love you. I love you. And she's like,
and Mary's like, I just want to go to sleep. Oh my God.
And she's like, I'm tired. And all you have really done, aside from our one like kiss the girl moment, is like threatened to rape me constantly. Like, yeah, I'm horny for your body, but like,
and he's like, guess what? You're gonna get to be a duchess, so it doesn't matter. Go, and he tells his friend, like, go ahead and like, get the special license. Go get married today. So it's like a bishop who's like, I'm gonna get.
He's like, it is 4 a.m. It is 4 fucking a.m. and I have to marry these two. Like, what is going?
And this woman is obviously either under duress or sick or something, because she is just propping her eyes up with like toothpicks.
Oh my God. And he's like, oh, we're married. And she's like, fine, let's go to sleep. And so she gets to sleep. And then this book tonally changes. And that,
well, okay, this has happened several times. When you get a book like this and it's a 400 pager and they get married and there's still a quarter of the book to go. It's never good, all right? Because we still had to always wrap up the villain. But all the tension's going to be gone.
What got me was all of a sudden, she wakes up. They have not had sex yet. She wakes up, and this man's home is like a fucking 1990s calendar. You remember the calendar store at the mall? Like,
yes.
It was never a store. It was like the kiosk in the middle.
Yeah.
It's kittens and ducklings and little children running around. And his
mom is like an artist.
It's like, so twee. And it's just like,
Duke. You don't get to do these things. You have to have a cold, empty hall.
It's just him with all these little animals.
And the peasants love him. And the little peasant children want to show her the duckies.
This motherfucker has been threatening to rape her since page, 50? And now all of a sudden, he's the king of ducklings. And, I raised these ducks myself and they love me.
Well, so now he takes her around to meet all of his little loyal subjects. They have a bed. They have a million beds because he's a duke. But no. I'm going to take you around to meet my loyal subjects. And she's still like fucking confused. And they end up going to see some little kittens in a hayloft. And that's where they fuck.
I was so annoyed.
Don't you think that people are going to notice you never came down? And they're going to be like, oh, God.
I was so annoyed. Because he went from like hard, like pirate to like this.
Well, his mom doesn't know what he does for a living for real.
Oh my God.
He's a privateer, by the way. They're under letters of marque. He's not really a pirate.
You know what? I feel like if you threaten to rape somebody like 500 pages, then I'm calling you a pirate.
Yeah.
So then things get wild. So
remember, Granville's still out there.
Oh yeah. So what we have next is we get to see Aunt April again, and his mom, Aileen, whatever you want. Eileen is how a Southern person would say it, but I'm sure it's like Aileen.
Oh, whatever, Eileen.
And then, they're talking, and she loves them, and we have nice, like, older lady and younger lady talk. Love that for us. But then we find out that this random dude that was like, hey, can you untie her? You're being really rude. Is none other than Kat's father.
Yeah.
And Rand Morgan has orchestrated all of this.
Yeah, Rand Morgan's been pulling the strings behind every fucking...
He basically runs Boys Town, but on a boat. Like, he takes troubled boys. Now, I guess, like, this guy just did it with, like, a hoe who, like, she did sell her son off to, like...
Yeah, it's not this guy's fault what happened to Kat. Like, he didn't know that I guess he didn't wrap it up at the brothel, but he didn't know he had a son until, I forget even how he found out he had a son. But
Rand! I think Rand was like, hey, I found this, like,
Rand might not even be true.
Rand has like all these machinations,
girls and something.
Because you find out that Rand knew who she was from the jump and orchestrated like everything. Oh, you find out that the indentured servant Hank has been working for Rand because. Let's flash forward or like flash back 18 years and Rand was in love with Mary's mom and couldn't have her, but like they were still horny for each other. And like as she's dying, somehow Rand is there and she's like, oh, will you watch my kids? And he's like, got it. And so he put in one of his pirates because she finds this out because Sales is like, oh, this drunk Irishman who was a menace, like used to work here and his name was Hank. And she's like, what? And so this book is wild. This book is fucking wild.
So the way that literally everything in it was carefully orchestrated by Rand at the end made me want to punch so many things.
Oh my God, all the things. I just wanted to punch everything. And then Hank shows up washed and like semi-sober, you know, because he's Irish in a book in the 80s. So
That's right.
like he's always going to be half drunk. But he shows up and he sees April. And he's like, and he kisses her. So they're a thing now.
Yeah.
Wild. Aileen has a thing for this random guy who has Kat's dad. And she's like, I'm really horny and I want him.
Well, no, he's been after her for a long time. And she's been like, she doesn't feel like it's proper. She's, you know, whatever. So
no,
finally,
but she talks to Mary. She's like, I keep trying to get him. And he keeps like.
Oh, I guess they both keep trying to get each other.
Yes. So then we find out.
So we've made all the matches and we're like, why is there still 100 pages to go?
So we find out that Devon's grandma, who is alive and a bitch.
Yes.
And she wants to throw a party, a ball. And she's like, I'm going to throw this ball. And I'm
For
going to
you and your new wife.
I hate her already. And so that we have this ball. And Mary, of course, is the belle of the ball because she's redheaded and she's skinny, but with big titties. And, you know, she's just doing her thing. But she's like a little sad, a little melancholy because all her harem is gone. You know, she had a cadre of hot dudes at her disposal. So she goes outside and there's Kat and he's like, hey. She's like, hey.
He's like in a tree.
Yeah. And then later she's walking around a little bit more and all of a sudden
dun, dun, dun.
Raven shows up and Raven's like, hey. And she's like, hey. And then
so Raven hasn't left very far because like then the bad guy,
Granville shows up and he's like, by the way, hey, I got your brother. Ha ha ha. You can't tell Devon or else I'm going to kill you. And I'll kill him too. And
I'll kill all your little friends.
I'll kill everybody. So he's like,
she knows that he doesn't know that Raven was almost certainly listening. Yeah.
So she's like, okay,
you got to meet me at like wherever with you.
Meet me at this ice house, like by the Thames or something. Mm-hmm. So she meets him and her brother is rough. Her brother is like
no, she's actually like plans and plans because Raven comes back and he's like, if you do this, Devon will fucking kill me. So we got to have a plan going. Yeah. So she does get a plan going.
Yeah, she does have a plan.
Yeah. She's not just stupid. I mean,
no, she is not stupid. She is anything but stupid. So she's like, okay. And so she meets at the appointed time. Raven's there. He's like, ha ha ha. And the guy's like, I knew there would be a sneaky little friend. I've got double crossing too. They're at an ice house.
Yeah. Yeah, like an ice storage place.
Yeah, because it was like, we're going to talk about how they used to store ice in straw.
Exactly.
I mean, I appreciate that. Yeah,
thing.
like you read a thing, you saw something in the...
But it's weirdly unstable.
Yeah, because all of a sudden she's like, Devon shows up to jump in front of the bullet, you know, kind of thing. And then all of a sudden the side gets blown out by Rand.
Yeah.
He was like, this was my plan all along.
Like, what the fuck is happening in this? And then, like, Granville just gets buried in ice.
Yeah.
Like, he came back for nothing. Granville...
We had to have this last, like, whatever.
Yeah, so, honestly, the villain is a weakness in this because, like, we never really know what he wants, what he does. Like, he definitely did have, not on purpose, he just murdered and raped a lot of people.
He just... we find out, too, like, in this last quarter of the book, that he had also been one of the people that ill-used Kat.
Yeah. So he had... raped not only Kat but also Devon's sister.
He's just gonna rape whatever's there.
Yeah,
like if
I don't know how Mary made
Dennis had been like staying in still for too long, Dennis would have been but Dennis is fine.
Dennis is okay. Dennis makes it through the book.
Yes.
So the way this works out at the end is it's like a Jane Austen book. Everybody's married. I don't know if Dennis is married, but they're gonna make Kat go to Oxford.
Yes, Rand gives again. This is not my canon. But I have a canon that's coming up later. But like Rand is like, you're going to go to Oxford and learn how to be a gentleman. And he's like, bye, Kat. In my head space, because I don't give a shit about Devon. I don't give a shit about Mary. What I care about is Kat. What happens is that we're going to flash forward 10 years later. Kat has been moping around. He's 28 now because he was 18. He was around Mary's age. And Mary is like, you know what? I'm tired of being sad. I'm going to use my Duchess status. And what I'm going to do is I am going to give you your own boat. And you're going to go basically dick fight with this guy that you've been wanting, who's now probably like 40. Mm-hmm. And you're 28. We love that for you. That's a good age, acceptable thing. And you are going to seduce him by stealing all of his shit.
Yeah.
That's what
You're
happens.
going to go pirate him.
You don't need to know what really happens.
And then you're going to butt pirate him.
That's what happens.
Yes.
Like, Cat goes and gets his mans.
Can you imagine Cat at Oxford? What the fuck is he going to do at Oxford?
He's going to learn how to, like, bring Rand Morgan to his knees.
Okay. Oh, I'll take that. All right.
That's what he's going to do. He has set up a plan to spend this time with all these, like, dandy dudes that he has no time for, but it's all about getting his mans.
Okay.
So.
No, I love it. I love that for Cat. Justice for Cat.
Yes, that's
or
what
dick for Cat.
That's what really happens.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, in the end of it, like the bad are punished and the good are married.
Yeah.
So I guess it's more Dickens. In Dickens, the bad are punished and the good are married. In Jane Austen, the bad are married and the good are married.
Yes.
So absolutely everybody is paired off except for poor Cat.
No, I've already told you.
Yeah, are you right?
We're writing that book. Okay. I'm going to write to Tom Curtis and be like, can I write the sequel to you? Because nobody cares about Devon.
No.
We all care about Cat.
And so that's been the Windflower, and I really enjoyed it. I
loved it so much.
It was great. It was well written, and until we got down to brass tacks, as it were, then it got really, really purple. But yeah, I liked all of it, honestly. But let's do our questions.
Okay.
Big dick energy or big dick energy?
Okay. This book, the one thing that it suffers from is that every other male character is more interesting than the main character.
That's very common, though.
I know, but I'm saying, like, I was more invested in Raven. I was more invested in Cat. I was more invested in Rand Morgan than I was in Devon. Devon is boring and bland, and he's fine. He's whatever. But to me, the main character of this book, because again, it's his origin story, is Cat, and that is the biggest dick that ever, like, swung around. That's the thing.
I think what this book was trying to do was to get around the problem that we see in books like with Derek Craven, okay? Where you're like, oh, he's supposed to be such a bad boy. And then you actually meet him and you're like, oh, yeah, he's going to give you health insurance. Like, he's not actually a bad boy at all.
Yeah.
So in this one, they could almost take these two half brothers. And so Rand continues to be a bad boy. And, like, Devon, like, starts off as a bad boy, but he's allowed to get softer quicker because, like, Rand is still the bad dude.
I guess, yeah.
You know? And I think that worked okay. Except that there was a point like, okay, if you haven't raped me already, Devon.
It got really, that part of it, like like his like threats, I was like, ugh. But again, like it does suffer because every dude on this boat is hot as shit. Like even the cook is hot. Like everybody is hot and they're all super into her. It feels very anime-ish. Like it feels very like boat anime where like everybody is like in love with this one person and you're more invested in this other couple than you are.
Always. Like, I'm always into the people over there.
Yes, like you're so much more into this Cat Rand relationship than you are with Devon and Mary.
For those of you who were into Gundam Wing at the time, that would be the 13x6. Oh yeah, Zex and Trays.
Like it felt like, and it almost felt like it could have been one of those, you know, those like those video games or whatever, like where it's like one girl and like 15 dudes.
Yeah,
and you're always like, well, we want to pair these dudes together. Like it felt very Dick Fight Island, you know, like just dudes together, and I love that. For again, Devon is the blandest dude, but Cat and Rand, I'm like, oh my God, yes, give me this.
And I kept on wanting to see more Rand. Because, like, who's this dude? We're always in his cabin stealing his shit. Smoking his opium.
It's like, I just wanted those two to be together so bad.
Well, they were in the real book, which is in our heads.
Yes.
Yes. Would you talk shit with or about the heroine?
I really liked her.
Yeah, I think that's where this book succeeds because we've read books like, I'm thinking about specifically The Flame and the Flower, which is probably unfair because that book is terrible. But I mean, like, you know, she's not like a sad sack. She's not a Mary Sue. She's not unbelievably like, oh, it's fine. I will just whatever. I mean, like,
you know how like and I love these books. I love the Julie Garwood books. Mm-hmm. Like The Bride or whatever, like where they're so plucky. It's almost like she goes through real,
oh my God, tone it down. Yeah.
She goes through real moments of like human being scared and like whatever and like being uncomfortable, and I really felt that and I liked that a lot.
Yeah, like a Julie Garwood girl will be like, I will just whatever,
I'll take over the boat. You know, like like you don't have.
And Mary's not like that. She's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I mean, and there's a point where, I mean, they let her on deck because she's literally pining away. She will not eat.
Yeah. And so I did. I really enjoyed her.
And she's funny.
She is like
she's really funny.
The wit in this is really good.
Yeah, like it's not. Sometimes banter is just like a banter-shaped object.
Yeah,
like you're like, well, that's not that funny, but it's obviously banter. It's supposed to be banter.
Or where they do that, like I'll cut you, blah blah blah. You're like, yeah, no, like
she had to fashion shit, you know?
Yeah, she's very
funny. Like both of them are funny.
All right, back to the bitch.
This is great for that.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of stuff going on.
April should actually be in a dumber book. April would be just like either a pathetic figure or an obstacle figure, but she has a real relationship with her aunt, even if she doesn't agree with her about the War of 1812.
Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, like, so there's the cook's wife, who we think her name is Anna, like, who is a woman who is disabled and also a woman of color, and they like become genuine friends. There's also like
Aline,
Devon's mom.
Yeah, Devon's mom. Like so, and like
there's even an evil bitch, but I mean, it's like fine because they have a discussion, they talk. you know?
So I did enjoy that. Like aside from Mary, all the women in this book are kind of. At the time, I'm not like othered, that we have 2 women over 40. We have another woman who is of color and also has a disability.
There's also her cousin.
Oh, yeah, the cousin.
Who's a little bit trashy.
Yeah, we love her. But, like, and they do talk about things other than Devon.
Yeah.
So it does pass. And, like, this book does have representation, which we'll get to.
And especially for a book that's set on a pirate ship where there's no women except for her, it has a surprising number of women.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, substantial women. Women who feel like real people. No, so great marks and Bechdel to bitch. Oh, boy. When it comes to consent, is this book for Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye?
It's so hard because, like, we know that people have been... We don't see it ever happen, but they do talk about it. And I do think that they're really trying to capture this, like, what
normally happens to women who end up on pirate ships.
Yeah, I do think that they're trying to do that. It is funny because, again, it's like, she's the one that has, like, ensorcelled,
right?
Like, made all these men, like, tame little pussycats.
And, like, okay, so it didn't bother me, they're constantly talking about either raping her or normally we rape everybody because, it's so over the top until then we meet the cook's wife and we get the story. And this is told just completely matter of factly that the cook, like, I forget if he bought her or captured her. Either way, brought her on board. And finally, somebody had to tell him, like, I don't think she likes it when you rape her in front of everybody else. Mm. So finally, it's a character that has a name that we actually meet. And they act like they don't make a big deal out of it. And so that's the part where it's kind of troubling. Yeah. Not just like, we're the pirates who will rape anybody, Yeah. Like, because it was super abstract before. And then it's about a person that we met. And it talks about her in the same way. It talks about these no-name...
But I do think, I think what it's like, and again, it's probably done clumsily, but I think it's like Tom is always very protective of Mary.
Oh, no, he loves her now.
But I think what he's like, not just his wife, but like also I think maybe it's supposed to say that he's learned his
lesson. He's learned a lesson, yeah.
But I mean, again,
growth.
Handled clumsily, but like, especially since I don't know if we said what year this book came out.
Oh, did we? It's 83. Right?
Yeah, so it's very early on to have kind of this for really the diversity and like maybe like I'm not saying it's progressive by any means, but I think
it's only a few years after The Flame and the Flower, which is about like a boat captain literally
it's 11 years
raping our heroine. Yeah.
So I mean, again, there's a lot of grossness, but really for another book comparatively, like it's actually pretty progressive.
Yeah, it does not mostly happen to anybody.
I think what's really great about it in that Mary finally is like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do this? Or you keep threatening to do this? Like, does that, like, you think you have assumed these things about me. Does that mean that I deserve to get assaulted? Does it mean that I deserve to get raped? And like makes him stop and think about it.
She actually like looks him in the face, like after he's found out that she's the artist.
Yeah.
And so he thinks like absolutely the worst of her, that she's Granville's bitch still. And then she says, I don't deserve to get raped.
And so I think that is kind of an important moment, maybe.
I don't see most of these women in these historicals ever saying.
Never say anything like that. So I did appreciate that.
No, yeah. So it's okay. To modern sensibilities is a problem. I guess also what the authors may have been trying to do is they didn't want to make these guys be, I'm not your regular band of pirates. I'm the non-rapey kind.
Yeah, like we're still making them pirates.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that maybe they felt like they weren't quite sure how to handle that in a consensual way. Anyway, so that is an issue with this book, FYI.
But I do think that they're trying to, if you're looking at it from a historical context, like they're trying to make a point of it.
Yeah. No,
like to say that this is a wrong thing to do.
And they're actually discussing it. They are done.
Yeah, it's not just like, it's not just like done. So how badly are you judging your mama for reading
I would have loved it. My mom.
Oh my God,
book.
yeah.
This book is so great.
It's a great book. This book is so fun. I do suggest it. Like, I think it does. It holds up well.
I don't even suggest it with caveats unless, like, I know that somebody's very sensitive to sexual trauma. Will Scarlett Johansson be in the movie? Hell no, man.
This one is really, really, really diverse, especially for a book from 1983.
Holy shit! For books,
we have a native woman. We also talk a lot about. We talk a lot about the islands where runaway enslaved people would go and things like that. We talk about those. Not to mention Raven, who is biracial. There's also another guy on the boat. I can't remember his name, who is African.
Yeah, like he is
like Vincent black. Or something. And
I forget, but he's the quartermaster. Yeah, and everybody respects him intensely. Like
they do talk about this reminds me a lot of the show that I loved so much called Black Sails. Where
I wondered who'd watch that. It was you.
It was me. But they deal a lot with because one of the things they talk about is the pirate democracy and voting for your captain, voting for your quartermaster. They talk a lot about how a lot of people who were formerly enslaved become pirates. They talk a lot about these islands where people would go and escape and have their own their own world. Raven again is biracial. It's really well done, and it's really, again, for something especially, it holds up, I think, diversity-wise, for a book now, and it's especially if you consider
see just people with disabilities. I had figured that her sign language was going to come up later. There was a reason to have that in there because I just figured.
No, it was just the way that she communicated.
They were going to use it later, and we have the sign language. No, she's just somebody who uses sign language. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. You don't see that today.
And again, in Black Sails too, you have same-sex couples and things like that. And this, again, 1983, they don't fully pull the trigger, but no. It's alluded to. And so I appreciate that they're at least attempting, because that show is my jam, but
they're also doing it more deftly than a lot of books. So there's a part very early on in the book where I mentioned it before. She talks about she's making maple syrup. So it's definitely not Virginia, because I don't think you have maple syrup in Virginia. You're not making it. She's sugaring off in her backyard, because she had read this thing, and a clumsier book would have been she thought about the enslaved people who lived in the West Indies,
or they would have called them servants or something.
I mean, so it's great that it it doesn't give you all that. It just gives you her. She says, she thought about those poor people, and then she wouldn't buy sugar.
Yeah.
It's very smart that way. It does. The one thing we should talk about, though, Rand's Plantation Island.
He never talks about the people working on it.
He says that it's a lovely island, and it, gives enough for the 50 families living on the island to have much to. It's an indigo plantation.
Yeah.
It's not a fucking paradise. Indigo plantations are awful, and they use enslaved people because it is a ghastly job. So don't tell me that there's nobody enslaved on that plantation. So that's the one thing that I gotta say. What the fuck, Rand?
You're not leaving the house looking like that.
There's kind of outfits. It's not as much outfits as there could have been, but definitely she does her hoe clothes that come out of the pirate chest.
And then also her little her in Kat's clothes. She's always in Kat's clothes. That's the other thing that's very strange about it. She's never in Devon's clothes. She's always in Kat's oversized shirt or Kat's little his pirate outfit.
She has to wear a big hat because she's a redhead, and obviously she's never sseen the sun.
So she's always kind of dressed one piece, but bringing it back into anime. She's always got the big straw hat on and the white pants and a little sailor outfit.
There could have been more outfits. Oh, come on. It's a pirate thing. We could have pirate outfits.
I know.
Oh my God. So not enough outfits. But boo, thumbs down. Would your 12-year-old self have dog-eared any pages? Yes. Except now it's boring and purple prose. But when I was 12...
Yes, I'd have been like, tell me more.
There's a bit... Okay, so there's a bit like when they finally get married and they're fucking that hayloft, which... Anyway, so he's like about to go downtown, but then she's obviously like kind of like weird and confused about it, so he doesn't do it then, but he does do it later.
Yes. And she's like, she uses, I did enjoy that she uses what Kat taught her later on too. Mm-hmm. And there's a part where Kat comes in the room and like he got shot, but he only had like a flesh wound. And, you know, all the pirates are like, ha ha ha. But she basically seduces him like what he's thought she is. And like, Kat comes into the room and she peeks over like, hee. And he's like, ah, like leaves. I love that.
Their friendship is fantastic.
It's so good. And it's really, I think, one of the other things that we have to talk about. This is the first real platonic, like,
male-female relationship.
Yes.
It's
like,
not a brother. It's not a cousin. It's not anybody. It's just...
No, they're just good friends.
Yeah.
And, like, they're so cute together. And it's amazing. And, like I said, like, I was so worried it would veer into, like, some kind of weird triangle. But, like, even when they kissed, she was like, fine, I get it. You know, like, I loved it so much. But, yeah, she
And obviously, you belong to Rand.
Yes, she basically, like, does her, like, all the things Kat taught her. But that he, it was so great.
It's adorable. Oh, my God. What pairs nicely with a dumpster fire?
Well, you have to go rum.
Obviously,
right?
you got to go rum.
Like, rum is the thing because they do have rum, and she ends up like getting
Rome drug
with these pirates. It was so great. And then I guess should a human being in the 21st century read this book?
Yes, Hundo Pete. This book is delightful.
I loved it
as long as you're able to deal with the things that we've talked about, which I are a problem for some people.
But it was really fun, and I think really forward thinking during this time. Like
we have read a lot of books from this time period. We've even read quite a few that have pirates or whatever.
Yeah.
This one is the one we've been looking for.
This is the pirate book. If you need a pirate book, the Windflower is your pirate book.
Yes, delightful.
And also, Windflower is the nickname that Kat gave her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not Devon.
Yeah.
Kat.
So that's what it's named for. It's not a boat or anything like that. So this has been the Windflower, and we have been Bodice Tipplers. You can find us at B-Tipplers on Twitter until, you know, Elon Musk runs Twitter into the ground. You can find us at Bodice Tipplers on Facebook, bodicetipplers.com. And if you want to throw a couple bucks our way, we are at patreon.com/bodicetipplers.
Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts.